Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gaming Zone. I'm your host, Chriz, aka The Mole. Joining me is James Phoenix.
Hello.
And today's topic is Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 remastered on ps4.
Yes,
Woo!
indeed.
Which, it's the PS3 games of Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 put onto one disc. You get a menu, so it's not like you just get to swap between the two. They're all listed on a main menu, which looks pretty cool. I believe I linked that to Jim the first day I got it.
Yes, you sent me a picture of the menu.
Yeah, I like that menu.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to play the PS4 incarnation of the 1.5, 2.5 just yet, but my understanding is that other than the menu screen and maybe a theme, there's not much difference between that and the PS3 version.
And the new DLC adds a theatre mode and an extra scene into 3 whatever the hell days over 2.
Ah, okay.
But
Fair
yeah,
enough.
we're not going to discuss the full stories of these because
No.
there's way too many and that'd be boring as hell.
Yeah.
Plus, I argue if you like Kingdom Hearts and you think it's a good series, you think it's a story. It must be because it's story driven. Therefore, why spoil the story? Because then you're stopping other people enjoying the game.
Makes sense.
But long story short, basically, the whole overarching message stars a guy named Sora, who's basically a fanfic character who inserts himself into other worlds and takes over their role. Accompanied by Donald and Goofy.
Pretty much.
Now, there is more to it than that. Like, they start, there's Heartless, and then there's Nobodies, and then there's this.
There's a variety of forces of darkness that they have to fight off that are all intertwined in some manner, and the main bad guy is called Xehanort, and he's interconnecting through all the games that he's being the main bad guy that they're going to have to fight in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yes. But
Pretty much what you got to know.
The problem is, the thing you should know is each game, they add something new that didn't need to be there. Like, they try and explain stuff that didn't need explaining, and then just raised like 100 more questions. Like people, like a lot. I've even seen Kingdom Hearts fans themselves say this. They got through 1, they got through 2. All they wanted to do was get to the next story or to close it a bit. And most of these are prequels and stuff that go before it and just answer questions that don't need answering. Like, what happened in the first Kingdom War? In the first Key War, which I will admit that's probably the best game on the 1.5, 2.5 discs, either that or Rechaining Memories. It's hard to determine. They're both probably pretty much equally good, but the problem is they keep going backwards. And now when they go to the third, they're like, oh, it's going to end the, Xehanort saga.
Yeah.
But the fact they keep saying that means, oh, there's going to be a Kingdom Hearts 4 and they're going to start a new saga.
Yeah, which is probably why they went back and made all those prequels, because they realized, we can milk this, but we need to set up backstory so we have stuff to build on in the next franchise of Kingdom Hearts, as it were.
But you still can. After Sora's, you can then go to the next one and then just start building it up and telling the story there completely.
True.
This manner of speaking would be like if George Lucas has suddenly released 4 films before he even released episode 5 or episode 6. Like, if he'd released the prequels before episode 6, it makes no fucking sense.
That's true.
You're like, no, this doesn't need explaining. The prequels are good afterwards. Like, they could have done, like, that Keyblade saga could have been stretched out to a whole prequel saga.
That's true.
And that would have been pretty good.
That would have been interesting.
But you have a Keyblade, which is essentially a key to a city used as a weapon.
Yeah, it's basically a key sword.
Yeah. And there's various incarnations of that. Like, different worlds have different keys, which is cool. There's various worlds throughout all of these games because you do get to go to the Disney worlds.
Yep.
Like, you get to go under the sea, you get to go to Agrabah, my favorite part of the game. Cool.
Nice.
At least in most of them. I mean, one of them is just like a cutscene. I think it was the prequel one where it's just a cutscene of, oh, look, there's the book. Oh, no, that's for another story. Like, oh. What, it'd be a shame to retread that like you've done in all the games up until this point.
Well, it's not that it's not the book. It's that they tied it into that whole mini board game thing they put into that game, which was weird.
Which wasn't even that good. It was weird.
No, it really wasn't.
And the fact characters were included in there, they could have done both. But they've gone to a lot of worlds. Now, there is a possibility for the third one going forward with what's going to happen. And I will admit, I still haven't played through all of 2.8. Yeah, 2.8. But the review of that is coming. But 1.5 or 2.5, it's pretty good what you get in the collection, to be fair. For I think it's like 40, 50 quid. You essentially you get Kingdom Hearts 1, 2 bonus games, and unfortunately you get 2 movies, which bring down that collection, in my opinion, if they're still just cutscenes. I know there's 1,000 excuses for it, but there shouldn't be. I mean, look at what Sony's done when they've re-released Crash Bandicoot from PlayStation 1. They went to the effort of making 1, 2, and 3. They didn't go 1, 2, and then just make the third one a cutscene. That's cool. That's called actually respecting your franchise and enjoying the gameplay, which is arguably the most important part of a game. And there's no HUD up, HUD down, HUD up, HUD down, HUD up, HUD down, which we've discussed before. But yeah, like I said, the journey's pretty good. It's weird how they've spaced them out on the disc where you're going back and forth all the time, but I'm assuming it's the order they were released.
Yeah, pretty much, because it was 1, Chain of Memories, 2, Birth by Sleep, I think, 358 Days, and then the other one.
Coded?
Yeah, Coded might have been before 358 Days. I can't remember, because Coded was only in Japan.
Coded was on disc 2, so I'm assuming it came afterwards, but
probably, yeah, because it theoretically it's yeah, because I don't know if it's exactly released, but it's like released tied into chronology, because Kingdom Hearts 1 and then the Chain of Memories makes sense because that's 1 right into the next one. And then the 358 Days over 2 is what was happening like simultaneously with Chain of Memories and a little past it before leading into 2. So they were kind of before 2, so I guess that makes sense. And then it was 2, and then the 2 prequel, and then the prequel of Birth by Sleep that was way before everything, and then Coded, which was after everything up to that point.
Yeah, which that's what I'm about. It keeps going all over the place, but I think my thing was I think they're in the order that they were released, not necessarily the order that you should play them in.
Well, they might be. I'm just saying I don't remember if 358 Days fits in there, but the rest I believe were in release order.
Which yeah, that's pretty cool. The gameplay is okay. In my opinion, the gameplay is okay. Jim may disagree with that one, which is fine. Like, to me, it's just kind of sloppy. It's sort of Final Fantasy, but in real time and not as good.
I enjoy the gameplay, but I also haven't played any other real RPG type games, so I really don't have much to compare it to.
Yeah, that's fair enough, but it's just weird. It's like, what is this? It's really easy.
Well, they do have 3 difficulty modes.
They do, but even on the hardest one, it's kind of easy. But the main problem with the first game is most of the enemies you defeat by going behind them into a blind spot and then just hitting them.
Yeah, a lot of enemies do have that cheap way of winning, yes.
But that's the way everyone recommends doing it, because either the enemies are too cheap that you can't do them, or they've got a blind spot which you have to be cheap to do, and it's like, oh, no. That shouldn't be the case.
No.
But like I said, what you get for your battle, for your bang for your buck, as they'd say, or whatever, it's still pretty good collection. I mean, for 40 quid, it's pretty good. It's not that good when you think it's just a collection of PS2 games and Game Boy games made as a movie and stuff, and if you compare it to something like, I don't know, the Rare collection on Xbox One, where they released a load of games from before, and they released like hundreds on one disc.
Wow.
Like, they had everything from like Battletoad all the way up to Conquer and stuff like that, and the Banjo-Kazooie games, and you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay. But it's also arguable because I don't think they remastered them as much.
Yeah, because admittedly, you do get quite a bit because you get two full PlayStation 2 games that were pretty damn big. You get the Game Boy Advance game of the Chain of Memories that was later ported to PS2. You get the two movies that were from a DS game and a phone game that got ported to DS later, and then you get a PlayStation Portable game. So,
You broke up on the last bit. I'm assuming you're not plugged in.
no, I didn't get the opportunity. It was a PlayStation Portable game was the last one.
Which like I said, you got a collection on a whole bunch of stuff. Where, like I said, when you compare it to something like, say, the Rare Collection, you have games from NES, SNES, which is like Game Boy Advance. You have N64. I think there's a GameCube one there. There might not be a GameCube one, but might be. But it's like PS2 era. But there's so many on one disc, and it's like the same price. Because at the end of the day, it's still, like you said, it's still a PS2 game, which is already ported to PS3, so it's a port of a port.
Yep. But the real advantage being, if you buy that for 40 quid and you buy the 2.8, which is about the same, you have the entire franchise up to this point for like $80.
Yep. The question is it worth it?
Certainly. That's going to depend. That's going to depend on who you are as a gamer.
It's also going to depend on what you compare it to with other games that are out.
That too.
But
I want to get that Crash Bandicoot pack.
But yeah. So yeah, like I said, that Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5, there is some good stuff there. Like I said, I love the Pooh levels. I keep showing him off. Pooh. Chriz, they gave them all. Pooh. But yeah. The Pooh levels are fun, where basically you have to collect pages when you get or whatever it is. On some of them, it might be something different on one of the other ones. But when you basically go through and you're playing mini games, but they're just done like interactive episodes of Winnie the Pooh. And arguably until the part where they just make Sora Christopher Robin, which is kind of ridiculously dumb. Up until that point, it's still. Oh, I'm sorry. I respect the source material, unlike some people, but basically, it's a case of up until that point, it felt like Winnie the Pooh, and then they took away the one part that makes Winnie the Pooh Winnie the Pooh. Because let's not forget, it should be no one other than Christopher Robin as Christopher Robin, because the reason Pooh and stuff are alive is it was his imagination bringing him to life so he could deal with real world problems. Taking him out of it completely renders the whole world useless.
It's true.
But what were some of your favorite parts, Jim?
I mean, there's a lot of great things. I mean, I always enjoy seeing all the Disney worlds, being the Disney fan that I am. And I like how in a lot of them, Sora and Donald and Goofy, who are with him, or the respective protagonists, depending on the game you're in, have a costume change to correspond to that world. Like if they go to Halloween Town, they have Halloween-themed costumes. If they go to Atlantica, they are undersea creatures that can swim. Sora becomes a mermaid, for example. A merman, as it were. Or if you go to the Pride Lands for the Lion King, you become the lion and animals, which is kind of neat.
Which I do argue is slightly inconsistent.
Okay.
Because they go to the past of Agrabah, which if you're going to go with, it's canon of the crossover with Hercules, which is still debatable. Because a lot of Disney themselves say the TV show's not canon, it's just the films that are canon. But if you include that, even if you don't, even if you just watch it, you know it's the past. And yet they show up in trainers and stuff like that and don't bother changing their clothes to look like the past. That's still equally going to be as effective.
Yeah.
I argue to someone from the past, seeing someone from nowadays, how they're dressed, is equally as scary as seeing them in out of place in like Nightmare Before Christmas, considering he then went to different worlds.
That's true. But it is fun with that customization, how the gameplay, and how you get to have the custom keyblades, of course, from every world, which it is a lot of fun. And just interacting with these beautifully designed Disney worlds, they're really great. And every game that comes out, they're more expansive, they're more realistic. Even just the trailer we see of Kingdom Hearts 3, seeing the Olympus Coliseum world, how much that's expanded is pretty cool, and how much more of that you're going to get. And plus, just how in each individual game, even if even if the overarching story is a little confusing, if you took each game individually, it's an enjoyable story from start to finish that you can at least follow through that game. And so it's a lot of fun, And like after that, Birth by Sleep might be my favorite game of the series, which is just the three friends. They're you play as all three of them through the adventure. They go in the world to different orders. Their stories cross over, and they each have a distinct different ending and a distinct part of the plot. And they each have slightly different play, different combat styles, different levels of magic, health, defense. So it was really interesting and fun to play that version as well, and just just enjoying the story as you go through it, seeing the little cutscenes, trying to see where things are going to go, how things are going to play out. That's just it's really a great driving force, at least for me.
Yep, that's fair enough. Yeah, I'll admit there's parts I don't like on the game. Obviously.
Well, yeah, there's some things that aren't.
Like I hate the Colosseum. I've not enjoyed any of the Colosseum levels. The first one, it's Hercules just being a dick throwing barrels at you and going, "Rrr," for no reason. The other one, you're just backtracking and going back and forth through hell in a really stupid story. Or Underworld, because someone says that. But
yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, come on. I'd also argue the story isn't that they're really that easy to follow.
Well, I think it's easier to follow within. Like if you pick one game.
I'm on about each particular game. Like the second game, you're playing as fucking someone you don't know called Roxas for like the longest time.
That's true.
And you're like, who is this? Why is this dragging on? Can't just get to the bits I want to play.
Well, that's why after you do a little bit of that, you start getting cuts to Roxas dreaming of Sora, and you're like, oh, what is this? Why is he dreaming of Sora? How does this tie in? And you play because you find out who this character is and how he relates to the story.
See, personally, I just felt it felt to me like when you're watching, like if you're watching an anime and you see filler, no one likes filler. And when I got to that bit, I was like, this is just filler. And I just couldn't pay. I was just like, no, I couldn't get invested.
Well, to each his own. I can understand how some people might be turned off by that. It was a little weird the first time I did it, too.
Yeah, it was basically the Garlic Jr. saga.
I don't know what that is, but I'll agree with you.
Something that makes no sense in any way whatsoever. I'll explain that later. But yeah, basically, yeah, like I said, final thoughts, I'll say the story, each game, they add stuff that just seems to either, it feels like it contradicts something before it, or it just makes it more convoluted. The characters are okay, but the fact Sora keeps injecting himself as the main character at those worlds, I argue is kind of hurtful to those worlds. Because if the big selling point is you get to visit Aladdin, spoiler, it means you probably like Aladdin, therefore you probably care that Aladdin's the hero of it because you like the film. This would be like if they released a film called Batman and he's never in the film, and instead it's a film about Spider-Man. And I use that as an example because he's from a different universe, so it would make completely no sense.
Right.
Because this isn't even like, oh, I'm watching Aladdin, but I'm playing as Jasmine. That would be cool. Or I'm playing as Genie or something. That would be cool. This is, I'm watching Aladdin while playing as generic Final Fantasy looking guy. Who becomes even more generic by the end of the game because he has like 3 fucking people that look like him.
Yeah.
Of Roxas and not Sora from the prequel game. But
yeah, like, although that is kind of intentionally the point because they are part of him, they're part of his heart, which is why they're supposed to look a little bit like him.
It may be kind of the point, but it's also it's just an excuse for the laziness, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah.
I feel that's what this collection is, which is why I'd give it probably in the middle. Okay. I wouldn't recommend buying it because I feel like not everyone's going to enjoy this if you didn't hop on from the very beginning, so you're not nostalgic for it, or you know what I mean, blinded by the nostalgia. Oh my god, I loved this on PS2 when I was a kid. Because if you play it now as an adult, there's so many faults with it, and there's so many bad stories, and especially in today's world where, like Kyrie, she's like an afterthought. Whereas games nowadays have progressed to the point where the female characters are equally important, and it takes so many games for her to even get a role. And even in 3D, It just seems like an afterthought.
Well, that's one of the big selling points of Kingdom Hearts 3 is I think Kairi's finally going to be playable. And they kind of made up for a little bit of that when they introduced Master Aqua in Birth by Sleep, where you play through an entire story as her, and she's very clearly the most accomplished and most powerful of the three.
She's most accomplished and powerful of the three, but the other one you play as has an important role in terms of villain and story, and the other one has an important part in terms of weapon. She's just there. Which, it's still a fault in my opinion, and it doesn't matter if they're going to address it in a later thing. It's like if Spider-Man 4 had happened, it didn't suddenly make Spider-Man 3 watchable.
That's true.
So rating it as it is, like I said, I have to go in the middle because I'm not going to say it's complete crap that should be avoided, because there is something there. It's just I feel like there's not enough for a thumbs up, so I'm going to give it firmly in the middle.
I can respect that.
Over to Jim.
Like I said, it's having not played the actual set here, but having played the stuff that it's comprised of, I'd say this is definitely a buy if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan. Definitely check it out, because obviously if you like the franchise, it's something you're going to enjoy. It's most of the franchise in one set. It's worth giving it a shot if you don't own the PS3 ones already, or if you're looking for something with some higher res graphics. Definitely give that a shot. Otherwise, if you're not a big Kingdom Hearts fan, but you like Disney, it might be worth renting if you like Disney to see if you're someone like me who's okay with, exploring the Disney world the way it is, or if you're someone like Mole who finds it really awkward that the protagonists are being replaced. Rent it first, find out if that's how you feel about that before you spend money on it if you're a Disney fan. But otherwise, if you don't like Kingdom Hearts or you're not a big Disney fan, you're probably not going to enjoy the game, so you probably shouldn't go out and buy it because it's just not aimed at you.
And also, if you like Final Fantasy, you may want to avoid this, because Final Fantasy just seems to be added for the sake of it and has almost no bearing on it. It's it's mostly Disney, even though they bill it as Final Fantasy 2. It's like suddenly Cloud shows up and says, "Oh, where's Cloud? Don't worry, Goofy will save him."
Yeah, pretty much. And also, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, be prepared, because even though this is an RPG for all intents and purposes, it's basically Final Fantasy very, very light. So if you like heavy RPGs, this isn't for you either.
Yeah, this is more of an action RPG, whereas Final Fantasy is turn-based. Pardon me.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird in that regard. But the Final Fantasy thing being the way it was, but that's neither here nor there with that bit.
Yep.
But yeah, back to Jimmo.
No, I was just about good. Like I said, I was just saying that if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, or if you like Disney and you're okay with, being a third party in the stories, then give that a shot. If you're somebody who thinks that kind of ruins a period of the stories, which is understandable, then you probably want to avoid it. Or if you're a hardcore RPG, game's not for you. Or if you just generally never got into Kingdom Hearts, you might enjoy it, but I'd say rent it, because chances are, if you're at this point, it might be really hard for you to follow the story, and you might not be able to get into it as easily. So
yeah, and I will say I have no problem being a third party instead of playing as Aladdin, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But like for example, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, you go back when they're fighting rabbits and you help out, and while gameplay wise you may be the one to kill rabbits, cutscene and story wise you're just there assisting, and you help it actually work out so that the heroes still do what they were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, so they're still the heroes. Which I like that, because it's assisting, because it's weird to do Aladdin without Aladdin.
Well, in all fairness, that's not that, because once you're there, you can put Aladdin in your party, and he can be with you through the whole thing. And whenever the cutscenes kick on, Aladdin is still there, kind of leading the charge, and Sora's there helping him. That's always the established story in the world, that Sora is helping, even if it doesn't necessarily look that way.
Yeah, Sora's helping by doing it all for him. Like one of the Aladdin ones where you're fighting Iago. When you have Aladdin in your party, he's useless. You need someone with range to take out the bird when he's flying around. Therefore, they made it so you don't want to use him. Especially if you've spent most of the game leveling up Donald and Goofy, they're probably going to be the people you want to include more.
That's true.
But I didn't enjoy some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoyed, Lion King was kind of fun, where they did their own Lion King story, kind of, with Scar's ghost. That was cool. But you know what's not cool?
What?
Tarzan being useless in his own story, while the main enemy rides an invisible chameleon and tries shooting you.
Yeah.
That's just... What? I don't remember an invisible chameleon. No, he had one.
No, I had him. Yeah, and I'll be honest. Given what happened shortly after that game came out, I'm not totally unsure that wasn't just Disney's middle finger to the rights holders of Tarzan because they knew they were losing it.
It might be, but even if it was, that doesn't make it good.
No, it doesn't.
Well, for more on Disney doing stuff like that, see why I'm not buying Marvel v Capcom, whatever the fuck
Infinite.
it's called, Infinity, whatever it's called. But
Yeah.
it looks so dumb. Besides the bad graphics, bad story, the fact that they're just deliberately not including Fantastic Four and X-Men, it's like, fuck off.
Yep.
But I was your hostess on Chriz. I was joined by James Phoenix. Peace.